Good evening, everyone. Hopefully, you're having a great week. Happy Friday. We are back. It is time for another episode of BS and a Beer. The comically oversized Snifter has returned, which means hopefully one of two things. It means we're going to be having a nice night, and I can sit here like Montgomery Burns, but I still haven't gotten a wingback chair, but that will be coming. Let us slide into view what we've got this evening. It is a big one. And it looks fancy, doesn't it? It is, if it'll focus, there it is. The brewery is called The Brewery, with a U. Brewery, I believe that would be pronounced Terreux. They are not European. They are actually in Placentia, California, which is, I think, about 30 or so miles southeast of LA, but in Orange County. And this beer in particular, from 2015, mind you, is called Gypsy Tart, a Flemish-style brown ale. Malty, balanced, tart. And when they say tart, they mean sour. That's what this one's going to be. But the purposeful sour. The style officially is called a Flanders Oud Bruin, which I guess would be Flemish for old brown. Basically, it's a traditionally or originated in Belgium, and they use the wild yeast that we've talked about before to get the what I love, that funky, delicious flavor when it's done right and intentionally, not the last 2 weeks, unfortunately. But we've got a big bottle. Okay, we have carbonation. Could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. Nope, it's a good thing. Ooh, it is a very good thing. Ooh, it is a very good thing indeed. By the way, and as we showed, this is a 2015, and this clocked in at, what was it in 2015? 8.7%. So relatively high, about double the standard of your, ooh, I like that sound, of your standard regular run-of-the-mill beer. But let's get this going, let it settle for a minute, and then we will turn, and we will have some talk about, as I teased last week, the greatest gladiator that you have probably never heard of. So stay tuned for the flip, and we'll see you in a minute. And here we are over here. We've got our clownishly oversized Snifter. Clownishly or comically? Which one sounds better? I think comically actually sounds better. But we've got that slight, very slight, actually kind of surprised how mild the that kind of vinegar tart aroma is, but it's very well tamed. I think that might be a combination of the fact that the beer is a little lower in alcohol, and also the fact that it is 10 years old. It does tend to dull the flavors after a little bit. But let's have a little sip, and then we're gonna start digging into to our mystery gladiatorial figure. Oh, it smells so nice. All right. That's weird. That sour vanished like that. Kind of sweet at the start, a little bitter. Then that sour comes in the middle. And then you're literally left with nothing. I've always found that very odd when you're drinking anything, or a beer in particular, with a lot of different flavors. I love that sound too, by the way. Hopefully that came through. God, I lost my train of thought. But it is what it is. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. I love the fact, it's odd, I should say, that with a beer, and there's so many different flavors in here, so much, complexity, which is quite true. The fact that it can leave you with literally no aftertaste. It's like you're aware you drank something, but you're not 100% sure what it is you just drank. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. And again, because this is double the strength of your average run-of-the-mill beer, at least. Most of those are around 4 to 4.5. This is 8.7, almost 9. I don't know. I like it. I kind of wish that, the weirdest thing is, coming off the past 2 weeks when it's been rancid sour, but, the undrinkable sour, this, I actually wish was more sour, as weird as that is to say. So now, let's dig in. Somewhere, and I use the term somewhere because that's the God's honest truth, somewhere on the island of Sicily, there was, and again, this is part of the whole mystery, there was a stone, a headstone, grave marker, if you will, faded, but there was an inscription. The inscription read as follows: Flamma, Secutor, lived 30 years, fought 34 times, won 21 times, fought to a draw 9 times, won reprieve 4 times, Assyrian by nationality. Delicatus made this for his deserving comrade in arms. Delicatus, not much is known about him either, but he was also a gladiator at the time of our mystery man, and as the first word of the epitaph, Flamma. That was the name by which he was known, Flamma the Syrian. Actually, I did find a really good article. I put a link to it in there, or down below, because it's really good article. And especially because this is such a fascinating mystery. This is a true history mystery. Because essentially, the only knowledge known about the gladiator known as Flamma the Syrian, Flamma, Italian for flame, by the way, was what I read. He was a gladiator. He fought 34 times, won his freedom 4 times, and refused it all 4 times. So that's, I think, the title of the article I read is The Gladiator Who Refused His Freedom 4 Times. And that is true. There's 2 possible origin stories to the man who was Flamma. Both of which, however, revolve around one specific historical event. One of the only events they can actually pin his origin story to, as it were. It was a series of revolts called the Bar Kokhba revolts. They lasted between 132 and 136 AD. And there's going to be pictures of stuff up here as it goes along. These were in the Roman province at the time of Judea. And the Bar Kokhba revolts were the last of the 3 major Jewish uprisings in that time against the Roman Empire. And who was that? Hadrian, I think? Emperor Hadrian was on the throne at the time. The only thing historians can do, is place Flamma at the beginning of said conflict, so around 132, 133 AD, at roughly the age of 14 years old. That's where pretty much the knowledge ends and the speculation begins, because who was he? There's the only 2 theories that really exist. Was number 1, he was actually Syrian born revolutionary fighting against the Romans, or the other prevailing theory is that he himself was a Roman legionnaire, but was dissatisfied, abandoned his post, and eventually was jailed and sold into slavery, which is what the gladiators were. So that's it. That's all they really know. And also the thing about the headstone, they haven't seen that headstone in nobody knows how long. The epitaph was faded at the time it was last seen. And since he died at the age of 30, we're talking nearly 2,000 years ago. That tombstone is probably has long been forgotten to time. But there would have lied Flamma, the greatest gladiator who ever lived. Now, the one word I mentioned in there, Secutor, that was one of the major types of gladiators. We've all seen gladiator movies. We've probably seen Gladiator itself. There was dozens of different types of categories of gladiator based on their fighting ability and their weaponry and their armor. The Secutor that Flamma is probably one of the more, I guess, stereotypical gladiators there. There's what the Secutor would be. The Secutor, they would carry a heavy shield, most of the time oval, but not always. It could have been a long rectangular shield. And unlike their counterparts that would carry either a full sword or a spear, the Secutors would usually carry a shorter sword or a dagger or a gladius, whichever they had. And because of their armor and fighting style, the gladiators they matched up best against were the retiaris, and they are probably the most recognizable ones, being the ones with the light armor, the net, and the trident. And those were the ones that fought most often because their styles complemented. Actually, I believe in reading in looking at my research, the secutors were created specifically to combat the retiaris. So yes, Flamma the Syrian, 34 fights as a gladiator. Now, I was wondering, how many, is that a lot? Turns out, yeah. It turns out, yes. That is an awful lot. Pause for one moment. Because even for the more successful and better known gladiators outside of Flamma, the overwhelming majority of them fought between 5 and 7 times, either before they were killed in action in the arena or won their freedom, in which case, if you win your freedom as a gladiator, you are presented with that. It is a rudis, and it is a simple, plain, basically unnoticeable, wouldn't think twice about it, wooden sword. Completely unornate, simple as the day is long. But it was that wooden sword that signified to everybody that the person who carried said sword had earned their way up, had climbed from out of the ranks of slavery into society. However, and I guess then the question is, why in the world would Flamma not take his freedom? Well, the one prevailing theory is essentially this. It seems the only person in history that he was even close to was Delicatus, a fellow gladiator, and the one that paid for Flamma's headstone. He had nothing out in the outside world, and so what was there for him to go to? I guess I can, in a weird way, you can see the reasoning. He was incredibly successful in the arena as a gladiator. So that was the only life he knew. So I guess in that regard, he wouldn't do anything else. The fate of Flamma, as with most gladiators, he lost his life in the arena at the age of, I think they say, the age of around 30, fighting a retiaris, and he was stabbed through the neck with the trident, and thus ended the life of one of the most fascinating stories. And I've always said, and this is true, I do love the mysteries of history, because it's the year 2025, and we should know everything, right? But we don't. There's so much we don't know. I've often said, and it's actually the truth, is we know more about outer space than we do our own oceans. And by that logic, we know more about our oceans than we do really about the mysteries of the past. You look at just here in the United States, you look at the lost colony of Roanoke. I mean, it's getting to the point where the lost colony of Roanoke, they pretty much figured it out. But yet there's always that what if. To this day, they still don't know who Jack the Ripper was. They have no idea who Flamma was. And more than likely, that's the way it's going to be until this blue marble that we're on stops turning. And that fascinates me. It's fascinating and also slightly infuriating, because there's something you want to know the answer to, yet you're not able to find out the answer. This was hours of research to come up with that little 10-minute spiel about it. And that's just the crazy truth. It's just, I wish I could give you more about the history of Flamma the Syrian, but unfortunately there is no more history to give. All that was known is essentially, give or take, the latter half of his very short life of 30 years. So from age around 14 to around 30 when he died. That's all we know. But so there was all that at the beginning. Who was he? Where did he come from? Was he actually a Syrian revolutionary? Was he actually a Roman legionnaire who was there fighting the wars and deserted? We will never know. And that's part of, like I say, it's the joy and the curse of the desire for knowledge, I guess would be the best way to put it. Ooh, we're getting philosophical tonight with some Gypsy Tart, some 10-year-old sour ale. Man, I'm not complaining about that. I am not complaining about that at all. But that's interesting. I love it. I've read that article that's down in the comments. I really, really recommend it. 5-10 minute read. Fascinating. And then you're probably going to go down some of the similar rabbit holes that I went down. And probably end up at the exact same place that I did. With a thirst for knowledge and a whole lot of not much to show for it. Unfortunately. But as is the way, but that is why we continue to try to learn. Because you never know. And that's the thing. You never know. One day, you might. Who was it? It was one of the old British monarchs. Was it Richard the Lionheart, I think? Didn't they? People more versed in English history. It wasn't that long ago, but now I'm blanking on the details. I think it was Richard the Lion, or somebody, some major king was found buried under a parking lot. You don't know where things are going to pop up, so maybe one day in the future, when we're all still around to see it, maybe somebody that's touring Sicily, wandering around, may literally stumble across the grave of arguably the greatest gladiator to ever live. That would be incredibly fascinating. I, for one, would love to know that maybe sometime in my lifetime we'll know the true history of Flama the Syrian or Flama the Roman. We don't know. But you have to admit, not a whole lot better than a good mystery. And that's the thing. So, while this is done, I'm going to be watching Aloha Friday, and I'm going to be doing some more digging. So, I mean, you just never know. You literally never know. So I'm going to tease for tomorrow, take another sip of this, and leave you with my really strange thought of the evening. Tomorrow, as we discussed gladiators today, tomorrow, we're doing something different. We're talking polar exploration. We're going to talk about the most harrowing part of arguably the most harrowing Antarctic exploration that ever was. This is a fun one. I've done a lot of reading on this one just years ago. This is a great one. But I'm going to take one more sip, and I'm going to leave you with one final thought. After I give you my thanks for sticking around for the past 20 minutes, of course. Really, thank you. I really enjoy this. I hope you guys do too. I'm digging it because it gives me a chance to bust into the little 5-10 minute history nuggets that I wanted to talk about. But on that note, if James Bond is the world's most famous spy, by extension, wouldn't that also make him the worst? Have a good night, everybody.